This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Hi, I'm Seth.
And I'm Patrick.
Do you want to dig into the fourth part of the longest prologue we have experienced so far, or may ever experience in this series?
Yeah.
Is Lord of Chaos the longest prologue in the Wheel of Time?
I believe so. I'm not confident on that, though.
Wheel of Time prologue length. It's definitely the longest, but Winter's Heart and Crossroads of Twilight are both longer. Oh, that's a percentage of total book length. Those are shorter books. Fuckers.
I'm going to start this up.
Go for it.
Always feels weird not to do an intro when we have one of these episodes. So I'll just start right in. And as you can see from your podcast title, if you're listening to this not live, this is, what is this, part 4?
At least.
Of the LOC prologue?
At least.
We haven't exactly sorted out how we're going to clump them all together, but we'll figure it out. It's definitely way too long for one episode, that's for sure. And too long for two. We just left Gawain, and here are the Aes Sedai he's attending, or believes he's attending.
These are the Tower Aes Sedai sent from the White Tower to escort Rand back.
Indeed.
And I just want to say, before we start,
Yeah.
Dark Friend Alert.
So
and I'm going to be saying that a lot.
Many,
in this episode.
yes. Adjusting her red fringe shawl, Katarine Alrudin? Do you guys say Alrudin? This is one I've never said out loud yet. Alrudin? Red? I guess it doesn't matter. I'll go with that then. Adjusting her red fringe shawl, Katarine Alrudin rose from the cushions with the other women in the tent. She almost sniffed when Coirin, plump and pompous, intoned, "As it has been agreed, so shall it be." This was a meeting with savages, not the conclusion of a treaty between the tower and a ruler. The Aiel women showed no more reaction, no more expression than when they first arrived. That was something of a surprise. Kings and queens betrayed their innermost feelings when faced by 2 or 3 Aes Sedai, much less half a dozen. Brutish savages surely should be trembling visibly by now. Perhaps that should have been almost no reaction. Their leader, her name was Sevanna, followed by some nonsense about Seps and Shaido Aiel and Wise, said, "It is agreed, so long as I get to see his face." She had a sulky mouth, and wore her blouse unlaced to attract men's eyes. That the Aiel chose one like her to lead showed how crude they were. "I want to see him, and have him see me, when he is defeated. Only with that will your tower be allied with the Shaido." The hint of eagerness in her voice made Katarine suppress a smile. Wise? The Sevanna truly was a fool. The White Tower did not have allies. There were those who served its ends willingly, and those who served unwillingly. No others. A slight thinning at the corners of Coirin's mouth betrayed her irritation. The Grey was a good negotiator, but she did like to have things done just so, every foot placed exactly where it had been planned to go. "Without doubt, your service deserves what you ask." One of the gray-haired Aiel, Tarva, or some such, narrowed her eyes, but Sevanna nodded, hearing what Coirin had wanted her to hear. Coirin set out to escort the Aiel women as far as the foot of the hill, along with Arian, a green, Nessun, a brown, and the 5 warders they had between them. Katarine went as far as to the edge of the trees to watch. On arrival, the Aiel had been allowed to come up alone, like the supplicants they were, but now they were given all honor, to make them believe they truly were friends and allies. Katarine wondered whether they were civilized enough to recognize the subtleties. Gawain was down there, sitting on a rock, staring off across the grasslands. What would that young man think if he learned he and his children were only here to get them away from Tar Valon? Neither Elaida nor the Hall liked having a pack of young wolves about who refused to accept the leash. Perhaps the Shaido could be prevailed upon to eliminate the problem. Elaida had intimated as much. That way his death would not rebound against the tower with his mother. "If you stare so at the young man much longer, Katarine, I will begin to think you should be agreeing." Katarine stamped out a quick spark of anger and inclined her head respectfully. "I was only speculating on his thoughts, Galena Sedai." That was as much respect as was proper in so public a place, and perhaps even a touch more. Galena Casban looked less like Katarine's true age at most, and was twice that, and for 18 years the round-faced woman had been head of the Red Aja, a fact not known outside of the Aja, of course. Such things were for the Aja alone. She was not even one of the sitters for the Red in the hall of the tower. Carridin suspected that the heads of most other Ajas were. Elida would have named her leader of this expedition instead of that self-important Coirin, except that Galena herself had pointed out that a Red might make Rand al'Thor suspicious. The Amerlin seat was supposed to be all of the Ajas and none, renouncing her old loyalty. But if Elida deferred to anyone, which was debatable, true, she deferred to Galena. "Will he come willingly, as Coirin thinks?" Carridin asked. "Perhaps," Galena said dryly. "The honor this delegation does him should be enough to make a king carry his throne to Tar Valon on his back." Carridin did not bother to nod. "The woman Sevanna will kill him, given a chance." "Then she must not be given a chance." Galena's voice was cold, her plump mouth tight. "The Amerlin seat will not be pleased to have her plans disrupted, and you and I will have days to scream in the dark before we die." This is a pretty fun little section for two fairly minor characters like Coirin, Galena. We see them again quite a few times.
And if anything, they are sort of the fall guys, the bad guys of this book. They're the ones who set up Dumai's wells. They are the red-black.
Yeah, this is the meeting.
Yeah. This is where when everyone's like, well, the red's just corrupted with black. This is what I think of, is like, well, the two red that were sent on this quest to meet Rand are both black.
Its leader is Black Aja.
Yeah. Well, the gray is technically, Coirin is not black.
Oh, yes, I meant of the Red Aja, the leader of the Red Aja.
Yes, the leader of the Red Aja is black.
And we get another cool little section right after that read. Oh gosh, I guess I wanted to do a readout for this too. But we see that Carridin just learned that Galena was also black, as well as she.
Right.
I think the phrase is that they didn't just have the red in common.
Well, and that's what we know about the hearts in the tower, where you only know about two other people. There's just a group of three. And she goes through a pretty detailed description of how, I put my messages in a secret place. The messages to me appear on my pillow in disappearing ink. Like, we don't know who anyone is until we're on a particular quest.
Yeah.
I like the fact that Carridin calls her Tava. She's like Tarva or some such. And it's like, that's Thorava, who is terrifying. Terrifying. So that was just the way Katrina blows her off. I mean, she just has this terrible attitude about the Shaido as savages and just not even worthy.
Oh, yeah, they're so full of themselves that they can't see that the Aiel have some idea of what's going on as well. They may be Shaido, but they're still Aiel. But yeah, this Carridin definitely has that. They're so full of themselves. They're so high and mighty that they are unable to see their own flaws,
Blinded by their own reflection.
Basically.
We get a couple of hints here about the Elida and just the rest of the hall betraying the younglings and trying to get them killed repeatedly.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I think it's so frustrating to be with Gawain is you see that the people he gives his loyalty to in the beginning have no respect for him and do not return the favor at all. They're like, thanks for the loyalty. Now go out and die. Get out of our way. Shoo.
Narishma Spells was asking if Elsa is with the delegation, and I just wanted to respond and say I don't think we actually see all of the people that are at the delegation here. We see a Carridin, Coirin, Galena, but we know that there's a half a dozen here. Oh, Ariana Green, Nesuna Brown.
Mm-hmm. So list I have Katrine, Coirin, Aranin, Nessun. Those are the four I've got. And then Galena to lead it is 5.
The groups are at least slightly different. I think some of the members overlap between the delegation that meets with the Shaido and the delegation that meets with Rand.
I think it's everyone who meets with the Shaido also meets with Rand, but obviously there are more. Yeah. I just want to point out in this section that we get the first mention of Desane, who's frustrating Sevanna, who Sevanna ends up killing later. And we get the fact that she admits that she plans on taking over the Shaido. Like, they no longer are sending Wise Ones to Ruidian, which to me means they are no longer part of the Aiel. Or clan chiefs.
Well, they're not sending anyone to Ruidian. And that's kind of the beef where the beef starts between Sevanna and Dysane too. And I believe Dysane is a wise one, a real wise one. And for some reason, Sevanna thinks that she should be raised up to be a wise one. And some people seem amenable to it, others seem skeptical. But Dysane is outright, well, I'll read it in a moment, but Dysane is outright like, no, you haven't been to Ruidian, you haven't done an apprenticeship, of course you can't be a wise one. And you're clan chief, acting clan chief right now, so you certainly cannot.
But as we learn later, all it takes to be a wise one is to say you're a wise one.
Well...
I mean, in a lot of ways, that's what they say to Aviendha, and that's why she's like, oh, that's why you let Sevanna be a wise one, is she just stood up and was like, yeah, I know better than the wise ones, therefore I am wise. And everyone was kind of like, that's really what makes you a wise one. We just don't want to say that out loud. She sort of figured out the shortcut, you know? Like, she's just so arrogant that she sort of shortcutted all the shame. And, like, they never... Again... Let's talk about political norms. When you assume the political norm of, well, no one's going to be a wise one, no one's going to declare themselves ready to be a wise one if they don't go through the apprenticeship and the rings and the testing that we tell them to. No one would be that arrogant to stand up and declare themselves a wise one. And yet she did.
Yeah. This isn't a normal situation, you know?
No.
These people are far away from it. They can't send someone to Ruidian. I mean, unless
Yes, they can. Absolutely they can. Go run.
Into the army that's on the into the army that's pursuing them.
All I'm saying is that Sevanna has been stringing them along with excuses for a year and a half now.
Yeah, and these are desperate people in a bad situation with a thoughtless, arrogant leader
who's just trying to seize power. And I mean, she does have a very powerful army. Like, she's got some of the biggest, baddest warriors. She has a shit ton of channelers.
Yeah.
If she hadn't gone toe-to-toe with the newest, baddest ass Ashaman killing force, you know, she essentially had the best old world army, and she put it up against a World War II army. If she hadn't gotten wiped out, if all the Shaido hadn't, you know, faced rolling rings of earth and fire, they may have had a shot at taking over a good chunk of the Randland. For
sure.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy times. You're right, Bladen. There is a ban on harming anyone traveling to Ruidian. But these are the end times, guys, so all the rules are going out the window. I'm a little curious to speculate what would happen if, say, Sevanna turned around and started walking back toward Ruidian. Would they let her in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can they stop her?
No, I mean, they're still meeting with the Wise Ones. Wise Ones are still meeting with Shaido Wise Ones.
Yeah, they're still talking.
They're still talking. They're still getting together and having tea.
But Sevanna's not a Wise One or a clan chief, really. You know, it's different.
They still acknowledge her, but they still acknowledge her as a Wise One. Her and all the other Shaido Wise Ones. We just saw them sitting down.
Well, the Shaido Wise Ones do, yeah. The Shaido Wise Ones do, yeah.
Even our Wise Ones. Even
really?
Yeah.
Acknowledge her as a Wise One?
Yeah.
When?
They're not happy about it.
I have a lot of
like
trouble
her.
Believing that.
But she's a Wise One. I mean, she's been a Wise One since the beginning.
Sevanna.
She's
never been a Wise One. Like Dysane said, she hasn't done an apprenticeship, and all she did was marry a clan chief. That doesn't make you a Wise One. It makes you a roof mistress.
She's a roof mistress. She wanted power.
Oh, but she's acting clan chief, so that's why they're saying she can't be acknowledged as a Wise One. Because you can't be a clan chief and a Wise One. Or that's why Dysane is saying that. 2 paragraphs down, Sevanna barely forced herself to keep walking. Dysane had spoken against her being chosen as a Wise One, speaking loudly about her as having served no apprenticeship and paid no visit to Ruidian, claiming that her place standing for clan chief disqualified her.
But she is a Wise One. Dysane spoke against it, but she was the only one.
Huh. I mean, I guess if the other Wise Ones acknowledged it, and then it works, but I just never saw her. It says that on the top line of the wiki, but I don't agree.
There's a whole scene where Aviendha's like, when she is raised as a Wise One, She goes, and they say, all you have to do to be a wise one is declare yourself a wise one. She goes, I guess that's why Sevanna was able to be a wise one. Because she just was so arrogant that she made that declaration, and everyone else had to acknowledge it.
Yeah, because, I mean, she's the acting clan chief, so, I mean, and this is a military matter. She can do anything, basically, or they're letting her do anything. That's just because some people sometimes call her that just doesn't make it true. I'm saying that I disagree. that this shouldn't have been done. She's a wise one because a couple of people said so, but that's not the same. I mean,
because the other wise ones say
you could
so.
call me the Queen of England all day, is what I'm saying. It'll never be true. I hear what you're saying.
But if the palace guards obeys you, then yeah, you're kind of the Queen of England.
Am I? I hear what you're saying, and I agree. If the other Shaido wise ones want to call her a wise one, then that makes her a wise one in their eyes. But I don't see it as legitimate.
But I don't think it's just the Shaido wise one. I think it's also the wise one who are with all of the wise ones. Call her that.
Well, I suppose. Yeah, Desmond. And I think Tharava knows quite well that if she tries to turn on Sevanna, then what happens to Desane will happen to her. Fortunately enough, the Shaido's wise one had listened to Sevanna, not Desane. It was unfortunate that Desane had too many listeners to be safely done away with. Wise ones were supposed to be inviolate. They even came and went freely among the Shaido from those betrayers and fools down in Carridin, but Sevanna meant to find a way. As though Desane's doubts had infected Tharava, she began muttering, only half to herself. What is ill done is going against Aes Sedai. We served them before the breaking, and failed them. That is why we were sent to the threefold land. If we fail them again, we will be destroyed. That was what everyone believed. It was part of the old tales, almost part of custom. Sevanna was not so sure. These Aes Sedai looked weak and foolish to her. Traveling with a few hundred men for escort, through lands where the true Aiel, the Shaido, could smother them with thousands. A new day has come, she said sharply, repeating part of one of her speeches to the wise ones. We are no longer bound to the threefold land. Any eye can see that what was has changed. We must change, or be ended, as if we never were. She had never told them how much she intended, of course. The Shaido wise ones would never send a man to Ruidian if she had her way. New day or old day, Desane grumbled. What are we to do with Randall Thor if we do manage to take him from the Aes Sedai? Better and easier to slip a knife between his ribs while they are escorting him north. Sevanna did not answer. She did not know what to answer. Not yet. All she knew was that once she had the so-called Karakarn, the chief of chiefs of all the Aiel, chained before her tent like a vicious dog, then this land would truly belong to the Shaido, and to her. She had known that even before the strange Wetlander man somehow found her in the mountains, these people called Kinslayer's dagger. He had given her a small cube of some hard stone, intricately carved in strange patterns, and told her what to do with it. With the aid of a wise one who could channel, once Althor was in her hands, she carried it in her belt pouch at all times. She had not decided what to do about it, but so far she had told no one about the man or cube. Head high, she walked on beneath the blistering sun in an autumn sky. Intro Morghese.
I also like there at the end we see the reference to a certain Forsaken who gives her the call box.
Yeah.
So we see that later when he says, when you have Althor in your power, call me. And also with the traveling boxes, he disperses the Shaido. That's Semael. That's right.
Aren't they called, idiot boxes in the old tongue or something?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Fool boxes. Fool boxes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that basically decimates the rest of the Shaido that are left after Dumai's Wells.
Makes me wonder if more or less chaos was caused by scattering them, rather than keeping them all together.
More.
By scattering them? It's hard to say.
What it did is it started rumors all over Randland that Rand's Aiel were murderous.
Okay. Well, yeah.
And so no one trusts Aiel because you have all this murderous Aiel scattered to the four winds, which are the Shaido.
Elrond, anointed by the light, king defender of Amadisha, guardian of the southern gate, was not as handsome as rumor made him. But then, Morghese had suspected when she first met him, years ago, that he might be the source of those rumors himself. His dark hair was full and wavy, and quite definitely receding in front. His nose was a bit too long, his ears a touch too big. His whole face vaguely suggested softness. One day, she would have to ask, the southern gate to what? Working her carved ivory fan, she eyed one of the gardener's constructs. It seemed to be 3 huge nude women wrestling desperately with gigantic serpents. They are quite remarkable, she said. One said what one must when coming as a beggar. Yes, aren't they? Ah, it looks as if affairs of state call me. Pressing matters, I fear. A dozen men, coated as colorfully as the flowers that were no longer there, had appeared on the short marble stair at the far end of the walk, and were waiting in front of a dozen fluted columns that supported nothing. Until this evening, my dear, we will speak further of your dreadful problems, and what I can do. He bowed over her hand, stopping just short of kissing it, and she curtsied slightly, murmuring appropriate inanities, and then he swept away, followed by all but one of the coterie of servants that had been trailing them everywhere. With him gone, Morghese worked the fan harder than she could in his presence. The man pretended the heat barely touched him, with sweat streaming down his face, and turned back toward her apartments. Hers by sufferance, just as the pale blue gown she wore as a gift. She had insisted on the high neck despite the weather. She had definite ideas about low necklines. The lone serving man followed behind her at a short distance, and Talonvor, of course, on her heels and still insisting on wearing the rough green coat he had traveled here in, sword on his hip, as though he expected an attack at Saranda Palace, not 2 miles from Amador. She tried to ignore the tall young man, but as usual, he would not be ignored. We should have gone to Gildan, Morghese, to Johanna. She had let some things go on far too long. Her skirts swished as she whirled to confront him, and her eyes blazed. On our journey, certain discretions were necessary, but those around us now know who I am. You will remember that too, and show proper respect for your queen. On your knees. To her shock, he did not move. Are you my queen, Morghese? At least he lowered his voice so the servant could not overhear and spread it about. But his eyes, she very nearly backed away from the stark desire there, and the anger. I will not abandon you this side of death, Morghese, but you abandoned much when you abandoned Andor to Gabriel. When you find it again, I will kneel at your feet, and you can strike off my head if you choose. But until then, we should have gone to Gildan. The young fool would have been willing to die fighting the usurper, even after she discovered that no house in Andor would support her, and day by day, week by week since, she had decided her only choice was to seek foreign aid. He had grown more insolent and insubordinate. She could ask Elrond for Talonvor's head and receive it with no questions asked, but just because they were unasked did not mean they would be unthought. She truly was a beggar here, and could not afford to ask one favor more than absolutely necessary. Besides, without Talonvor, she would not be here. She would be a prisoner, worse than a prisoner, to Lord Gabriel. Those were the only reasons Talonvor would keep his head.
It's actually because she wants to bang him.
A little tension rising there?
Well, a little bit.
I agree with you, Devico. He's being Sassmaster right now, but he's right. She should not have gone there.
Well, and Morghese has a journey to make. She is
absolutely
still thinking of herself as a queen, and it takes her a while before she realizes she is no longer a queen.
This is a long arc, but
yeah, and she's treating the people around her who have supported her like subjects, because she's retreating into her shell of a queen. She is stressed. She has no idea how to handle the situation she's in. She doesn't have any power. She has no leverage, and for a while, she thinks she can get the throne back, and so she's still trying to be queen to the 5 people who are her only friends, and that's a lonely thing to be doing.
Yeah, I never thought of how lonely that would be.
She's gone to this king who was her only hope, and again, there was one of 2 things. And I have a big mea culpa, because in the last book, I kept thinking that Pedro Niall had Morghese well in hand. That's later. So I have to reevaluate all my thoughts on what Pedro Niall was doing with his troops and why he was bringing them back.
I was wondering that too. We know he's been recalling the troops for some time.
It looks like he's about to send out our very own Boars, Jaichim Carridin to go, when we can talk about this when we get to it, but basically take over, was it Terabon and Amadisia?
Yeah, I believe that's part of the Lion plan, to release the Dragon Sworn running around or stoke the fires.
Yes.
But Rand is moving so fast that Niall, it looks like he changes his plan sometime around now, right? Because I don't think he could have had any foreknowledge of Morghese landing in his...
I don't think so either.
I want to believe he did, but I don't think he did.
The only possibility is that we are, and I think I talked about this earlier, that this prologue is happening a bit in the past. Is that possible?
I think so. I had that thought at another point while I was reading, but I don't remember exactly where. Although
the White Tower Embassy, they're on their way to see Rand, so can't be that far in the past. But this is where, like, there's been a decent break between the books.
Because Morghese was on the road at the end of Fires, right? She hadn't arrived at...
Right, and she's been here a little while. Like, she's been trying to get his attention. Like, when we get to Rand, he's been doing stuff for a while. Like, I just feel like this is one of the bigger breaks.
I want to say weeks?
Yeah.
Let's see here. In a moment, Morghese is having a conversation with Linny. The world, she announced with a growl, would be a far better place without men. An emptier place, certainly, Linny says. Cleverly. Both are correct.
Yes. Both, I mean, you could think of that two ways. Both as there'd be half as many people, also no one would ever have children again.
I thought what Linny was implying was that there would be no people.
Yeah, I think that's, yes. I agree.
There wouldn't be women either.
No babies. No babies.
Morghese is saying another day or two. I think I'll get a pledge from him.
Which she won't, because Patron Niall is in charge. He's basically a puppet.
Yeah.
Patron Niall's pulling those strings. And he does not have a good ending. He's, let me pull that up here in a second. Aelron is killed.
Niall?
No, well, Niall, neither, but Aelron, the king, he's killed fighting the Shan-Chan when they take over the country.
Oh.
So he's not around much longer, basically. Basically, that night where Morghese flees because the Shan-Chan land on the top, that's pretty much the end for Aelron.
Yeah. I don't think we ever get very much on him except for that he's perceived as weak.
He's a puppet.
Yeah.
I'm not a puppet, you're a puppet. I thought that was an interesting quote. They even came and went freely among the Shaido from those betrayers and fools down in Cairhien. There's exchange. People are listening to Dessain and coming and going from Cairhien.
Yeah.
The wise
Dessain
ones.
has like her contingent of people that agree with her, and then the Sevanna loyalists.
But just goes to show that despite all this battle between the Shaido and the rest of the Aiel, the wise ones are still passing freely between Cairhien and wherever the hell the Shaido are. I guess they're out in the countryside, not that far away. They fled like east or north. Don't really remember.
That did make me wonder what the Wise Ones are up to, but I imagine this is just, this is like back-channel diplomacy, because the Wise Ones can go anywhere. They're almost kind of like priests, kind of like in the olden days, like you might send a priest to go do, they're seen as more neutral, so they're better at facilitating difficult conversations.
God's not on anyone's side. They are, though. I don't have much other than Talonvor saying we should have gone to Gillidan, which probably would have been better, although, I mean, Gillidan's just as weak. I don't think they could have helped her any better, but it would be better than falling into the hands of the White Cloaks. Like, that was a mistake. Like, stay away from the White Cloaks. Come on, Morghese.
Yeah. And, I talked about this a bunch over the last few weeks. There really is nowhere for Morghese to run to that's within any kind of reasonable distance. Like, the closest stable nations are, like, maybe Proto-Manetherin. Like, she could go run to Perrin.
Which she won't, because she fucking hates the rebellion.
And then the next nearest nation state that's has a government and is stable and feeding its people is, like, either the Borderlands or Ilion. I mean, excluding Abadisha. She doesn't really have anywhere to go. She should have gone to Rand or Perrin. really, but she wouldn't have. I don't. She wouldn't go running to these little young boys as she sees them.
Super Skylake brings up a good point that she's right near Salidar, if she'd known it was there.
Ugh.
She has no idea it exists.
I don't know how helpful that would be, but at least she'd be able to see her daughter.
Right. And, like, I'm sure the wise ones there, like, can you imagine, let's go ahead and help retake Camelin, and that becomes our base of power to take back the White Tower. Yeah. So that would be an interesting, like, alternate if she, like, in her travels...
She'd have to ask Gareth Bryn for help.
Yeah, Gareth Bryn's like there. Yeah.
Hey,
yeah. I can just see him being like, no. Like, and turning it back. I'm with these. I mean, basically the way he treats Elaine is basically like, yeah.
Kind of ignores her.
He's like, I'm aware of who you are. I'll see you later.
Devico's saying, maybe this is a dumb question, but why not go to Elida? Sure. That's another option that she could have done. It's actually the most likely of those three, I think.
Here's my answer. She has been highly compelled to distrust the White Tower.
Oh, yeah.
That's like, she has these conflicting emotions where she's very proud of Elaine, but then it's like, those damn White Tower, fuck those assholes. You know, like, she has this thing in her head that won't let her trust the White Tower because that's part of the compulsion, right? That was the whole wedge that Ravine was trying to drive between her and the White Tower. He was trying to split the country apart, and did that by compelling Morghese to really distrust the White Tower. And they lost her daughter, admittedly, but the lengths she went to, I think, were absolutely she would have been mollified when Elaine came back. So, I do think it comes up over and over and over again. I think it even in this section where she's like, I just can't trust those White Tower folks, and then she's like, but that doesn't make sense because I trained there and my daughter's there and I'm really proud of her, but I can't trust them.
We see other signs that some of the compulsion is still there too. Like, she occasionally yearns for Ravine. She's longs for his embrace or whatever when she's thinking about him, even though she's disgusted by him simultaneously.
Yeah, when she finds out he's dead, she's like, oh, he'll never touch me again.
Yeah,
that's like her first thought.
It's that
compulsion.
I assume so.
Terrifying.
Anyway,
yeah.
That's what I thought when I read it.
Well, no, because I don't think she has any legitimate feelings for Gabriel Ravine.
No,
but it's still with her, and she talks about that. I think when she talks to Elaine in the end of the book, she's like, and after she understands its compulsion, she's like, I understand its compulsion and it's lost its grip on me, but I still yearn for him, even now, and
creepy.
Yeah, at this point, she wants to go to him.
It's like cigarettes.
Yeah.
Come to me, Marlboros. I still have dreams and stuff. It's weird. And I haven't even smoked a cigarette in a year. Or very few.
Yeah, but how many years did you smoke cigarettes? That habit doesn't go away overnight.
Yeah, 15.
Yeah, that groove in your brain is still fucking there,
Oh, totally.
That's the problem with addiction is that groove doesn't go away. Once you're addicted to something, you don't unaddict. You break the habit, you break the cravings, but that's why it only takes an addict, and in a lot of cases, one beer, which, good God, am I caffeine addicted. God, I get to noon without a cup of coffee.
You got that headache?
Splitting migraine.
Yeah. How, do you just still, usually just use is most of the coffee you drink, do you just use your French press at home?
Yeah,
right?
It's all French press. Travis has a cold brew pitcher that he uses, so I'll occasionally have some cold brew. But to be honest, I like my coffee hot.
Oh yeah, I like it cold, but it whatever. But I feel like those two methods, French press there's a lot more particulate in a French press coffee.
Yeah, I don't mind.
I feel like it's a little bit stronger, and cold brew is definitely stronger.
Yeah,
I just feel like you're getting optimal doses of caffeine rather.
And I don't, I have my pot in the morning, and that's it. I don't, and that's it.
3 or 4 cups worth.
Yeah, but it's a French press. It's not like a gallon of coffee. It's, I don't know. I have no idea how much water goes into that.
Nah, I think it's less than that. Maybe 1 liter.
1 liter? That's what I was thinking. But 1 liter minus the coffee grounds, because they take up a fair amount of volume.
Yeah.
And they soak up a fair amount of liquid, so.
Still a good amount of coffee.
It's still a good amount. Yeah, it's 2 big mugs or 3 cups.
In any case, I feel like that walks us squarely up to the Niall section. Nope, this is still a conversation between Morghese and Niall. It's not Niall's actual part yet.
We actually see this from two perspectives. So this is one scene that then rolls into the other one.
Yeah.
Can I just say I love all the Lenny sayings?
Me too.
A slow horse does not always reach the end of its journey, when she's talking about Elrond making his promises.
At my age, if I made a saying up, then it is an old saying. That's
always
one
a
of them.
good one. Always a good one. I love that this scene has a solid 2 or 3. I'm trying to look for the rest of them.
Yeah. I really like the comment where Morghese is like, the world would be a far better place without the men. Without men. And then he's like, well, there wouldn't be anyone.
There wouldn't be anyone, yeah. Yep. No babies, no more people. Oh, Jesus says her headcanon is that Lenny is a foreteller.
A doomsayer, except she's a grandma that kind of tells stories instead of seeing images.
It's like the pattern is communicating through Lenny with the sayings.
And Brienne is talking to Morghese and says about Talonvor, if you want him, take him. Lamgwin says he has sworn to you, and I have seen him look at you. She laughed huskily. He will not refuse. Cairhienin were disgusting, but at least most of them kept their dissolute ways decently hidden.
I like that. He won't say no. It's like... I like that. Nana speaker instead of Doom speaker.
I like that too.
I just wanted to point out that Niall is extremely good at lying with the truth. He's almost Aes Sedai-esque. For a man who hates the Aes Sedai, he shares a lot of their traits.
When I read this, I was just like, wow, it is kind of masterful, where he uses the truth, but kind of bends it in the light that, shines a light on it that makes it work for him. And
I wanted to almost go through every single one of his statements and be like, it's the truth, but for every single one of them,
Say Niall just strolls in, and Morghese had her door guarded, so she's like, "What the fuck? Like, did she have my men killed, or did he have my men killed? Rather, she's kind of freaking out a little during the conversation because she doesn't understand.
And those men include a certain young Talonvor, which she cares about more than she'd like to admit. Who got apparently a bump on the head. He got a hilt to the head and knocked him out.
Niall says very quickly, "Okay." Starting here, your men are uninjured. Do you think Elrond will give you what you need? You are a beautiful woman, Morghese, and Elrond prizes women with sun-gold hair. He will come a little closer, each day to the agreement you seek, never quite reaching it, until you decide that, perhaps, with a certain sacrifice, he will yield also. But he will come no nearer what you want, whatever you give. This so-called prophet's mobs ravage the north of Amadisha. To the west lies Terabon. With a 10-sided civil war, brigands sworn to the so-called Dragon Reborn, and rumors of Aes Sedai, and the false dragon himself to frighten Elrond. Give you soldiers? Could he find 10 men for every one he has under arms right now? Or even 2? He would mortgage his soul. But I can send 5,000 children of the light, riding to Caemlyn with you at their head, if you but ask.
I'd like to talk about how much the men around Morghese treat her sexuality as a bargaining chip.
Yeah.
That's what when he says a certain sacrifice, that's what he's saying.
That's what he's implying, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you fuck him, he'll do what you want.
It's definitely a certain ... sacrifice. But Niall is playing, he's saying that Elrond, that's the game that Elrond is playing.
Sure. But Elrond doesn't even have the power to back that up.
Yeah.
He's fairly impotent in that measure.
Yeah. Niall makes the case that, actually, Elrond couldn't help you even if he wanted to, and he's just going to keep telling you, to get in your pants. He's just going to keep telling you, stringing you along to keep you around because you're a pretty that he can collect.
Mm-hmm. He likes your yellow hair, yeah. But what he's saying is, I am going to give you an honest deal. It's a shitty deal, but I'm going to be honest about it.
But at least it's honest. It's not.
It's not honest at all.
But he says it is.
And in a lot of ways, I mean, on some level it is. He's basically saying, yeah, I'll give you your throne back for a foothold in your country and essentially to become the power behind the throne.
Yeah, I guess he wants Morghese to be a puppet queen.
Yeah. That's basically what he's saying, is you'll be my puppet. And, you know, I don't think she's unaware of that. I think she thinks she can fight it. And she's making that gamble of like, well, I'd rather be a puppet queen than not a queen.
She's kind of gambling that the White Cloaks will get her in the gate, and then once she's in the gate, she'll have a lot of her old resources, and then she can start to
undermine them and get them out of the country and take power back. But it's going to be hard because they'll be her only troops for a while.
But Niall knows that too. You know, Morghese is renowned for her cleverness and for her temper.
And these are the old guard. They are playing a game of stones, and if they were still playing in the old world, they would eventually, you know, come to a conclusion. We see them play this game over and over and over again. He wins sometimes, she wins sometimes. They're pretty equally matched. However, in the meantime, Rand al'Thor, Egwene al'Vir, and Perrin Aybara have just swept the existing structure out from under them, and all of a sudden they're playing a whole new game, and they are out of their league.
Right.
And I think that's partially why the old guard needs to get out of the way, because they are playing the old, you know, even Niall talks about time and years and decades of work, that even as an old man who's trying to hurry, he still has long-term plans. The last battle's coming. There's no time for long-term plans.
Yeah, as the series progresses, the narrative accelerates. There's more and more information, there's more and more characters, but the timeline is actually accelerating.
Yeah.
As far as, like, amount of time per page, you know? It's easy to forget sometimes, but, I mean, how far out are we from the last battle, like, right now? Like, 1 year?
Less. 6 months.
6 months? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're only a third of the way through the series.
Now, and in fairness, the last battle is about a third of the series.
Okay, yeah.
But from now until about book 11, so we're about, you know, I think of it as thirds, even though it's not equal thirds, where you have sort of the first half leading up to Lord of Chaos, then the second half leads up to the last battle, and then you have the last battle. And as the last battle is, 11, 12, 13? So you have 6, 4, 3 is sort of how I think of it. The first 6. Yeah, you could even say 5, 5, 3, really, if you want to end it at Fires of Heaven and say Lord of Chaos is pretty compacted in timeline. It's a pretty short time frame.
Yeah.
So the first 5 are like a year and a half. The next 5 are like 6 months, and then the last 3 books, depending on where you are in Randland, you could say it takes up to a day or a year, because time gets all wonky in those last books when Rand steps. Yeah, because for Rand, he's only in the Boar for 12 hours, maybe, not even a couple hours. Where in the outside world, like, weeks go by in the battles and months even in some of the faraway lands. The Dark One's a black hole of evil. He doesn't have like mass; he's got evil, critical. Massive evil, slowing down time. Let's talk about Niall's speech here, where he tells a bunch of wonderful lies, or wonderful truths as lies.
You're walking up to Morghese, responds to him and says, "You would help me oust Gabriel," essentially. And Niall goes on, "Gabriel, your lover is dead, Morghese. The false dragon Rand al'Thor has added Caemlyn to his conquests." Linny made a faint noise as if she had pricked herself, but he kept his eyes on Morghese.
After all that, could there possibly be this faint regret that she would never feel his hands again? It was madness. Actually, it's compulsion.
Feels like madness.
But it feels like madness, because you've got one part of your brain that's saying something to your head that's just like a voice outside of your head. An external voice in your head telling you what to do. Madness.
Creepy.
Or Lewis Theron. Same thing.
And I think the rest of his lies are mainly, or truthy lies. I don't know what to call these things.
Truthiness.
Misleading truths. Truths presented in a misleading manner.
Mm-hmm. Half-truths. A lot of half-truths.
al'Thor had Caemlyn now, that might change everything. She had met him once, skimming a bit, but a youth, carrying the heron-marked sword of a blade master. And here, why do you call him a false dragon, Niall? If he intended to call her by her name, he could do without even a commoner's master. The stone of Tyr has fallen, as the prophecies of the dragon said. The High Lords of Tyr themselves have acclaimed him the Dragon Reborn. Niall's smile was mocking. Everywhere he has appeared, there have been Aes Sedai. They do his channeling for him. Mark me. He is no more than a puppet of the Tower. I have friends in many places. He meant spies. And they tell me there's evidence the Tower set up Loghain, the last false dragon, too. Perhaps he got above himself, so they had to finish him. There is no proof of that, Morghese responds, but she's considering it.
Yeah, and using one truth that the Red, which, in fairness, he thinks it's a truth, the Red set up Loghain to imply they also set up Rand. A half-truth.
Right.
Also, everywhere he's appeared, they're Aes Sedai. Yeah, pretty much, but they're not doing the channeling for him. But as a non-channeler, you can't tell the difference.
Sure.
He let the Aiel loot the stone? Well, yes and no. He collected taxes.
Oh, here's a good one. He says Carridin shall have a new ruler, one he will name, but the only real power in Carridin is himself. Implying that, oh, sure, I'll pass power to someone someday.
When the reality is he's named Morghese already. He's literally named the person. He's like, if all Niall said is he's named you, he wants to give you the throne, that would be framing
that she was named.
Yeah, that would frame that in a totally different way. It's true, but at the same time, it's false. Now, she'd still be fucking pissed if Rand tried to hand her the throne. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But the fact that he wants to give it to her is a totally different... Now, he thinks she's dead.
And he wants to give the Sun Throne to her, and then by the time he gets to Camelin, he thinks she's dead, so he says, I guess this is all Elaine's then.
Right.
Wherever she is.
You're dead, did you know that? Well, she says later, that makes sense based on the way I fled. Of course they would think I was dead. Right? Like, even she thinks that makes sense.
And then he starts twisting the knife when he says, there's mention of the Lady Dylan, I believe. He has sat on the Lion Throne, used it for audiences, but I suppose it was too small, being made for women. He has put it up as a trophy of his conquest and replaced it with his own throne in the Grand Hall of your royal palace. Well...
Yeah, I mean, somebody's mentioned Lady Dylan. Lady Dylan doesn't want the job, but people are mentioning it.
He did sit in it once, right?
Yeah.
And then he found it to be inappropriate, so he put a chair underneath the throne, and he sits underneath it.
But
right?
Even Elaine gets fucking pissed about that. Even Elaine's like, that was not the most politically savvy move there, buddy. Like,
yeah, well,
yeah.
He's a farm boy, and by the way, here's your country's back.
Right.
Like, complain about it. Jeez.
I'm sorry I sat on the wrong throne, yeah. Hey, let me brush some of that dirt off of it before I give it back to you.
Yeah, right.
I mean, dark friends.
Sorry I don't know your special chair rules, but here's your palace back. Some Andoran houses think he killed you. There's sympathy for you now you're dead, giving her hope at the end here.
Oh, here's a good line in the next paragraph. Oh, light Elaine, was she still safe in the tower? Strange to think she had such antipathy for Aes Sedai, largely because they had lost Elaine for a time. And it's like, no, it's because you were compelled to hate them.
Yeah.
That antipathy is so strange and out of place because that's not normal. That's not your normal attitude.
But she hears Niall out and says, I'll need time to think. Of course, Niall rises smoothly and says, oh, by the way, I know people are out to get you, so I'm just going to post some guards outside your doors and everywhere to protect you.
For your pleasure. I mean, protection. Yeah, those are prison guards.
One way or another, he was letting her know that she had no choice, is her thought after he says that.
That's partially why he overwhelmed her guards to step in, is to let her know that she does not have a choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure he could have knocked and asked and been let in. They probably would have let him speak with her if he said, that's all I want to do. But by overwhelming them and knocking Talonvor out, he's making a statement saying, I do what I want, and you have no say in it. And
he calls her Morghese, which is disrespectful.
Rather than queen.
And he knows she can't do anything about it. She can't even complain.
No, he has all the power. He's got all the pieces.
Morghese goes back to her rooms and kind of freaks out at everyone because she's freaking out about herself and her life and everything that she's worked for.
Talonvor, why didn't you take on 30 soldiers to protect me? He's like, I tried. They knocked me out.
I think she yells at him like before he just walks into the room after Niall leaves. And wait, they didn't knock Talonvor out?
They clubbed him with a hilt.
Oh,
is what
yes,
they say.
yes.
I assume that involves like getting
hit hard at least. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. But the other two didn't fight. At first, Morghese was upset with them, but Gil is like, there's 30 of them. Like,
and we'll just skip over the fact that like getting pistol whipped like that with the hilt of a sword should crack your skull and cause long-term damage, if not a concussion. Like they just sort of just pass right over that. He's like, oh yeah, I'm fine, no problem.
Oh man, I got a story about that. Not really, but I heard someone tell. I was in a that martial arts club a long time ago that I bring up every once in a while. It's slightly relevant to the series. And there were these two guys doing a demonstration. These guys were like the big head honchos, and they were doing training demonstrations, and they wanted to demonstrate how you can turn a sword around and hit somebody with it like a club, and do serious damage. And so I remember, I think it was like the deputy director and like the guy right underneath him, and the guy right underneath him put on full like plate armor with the helmet and everything, and put some padding in there and did all the things you're supposed to do. So they do their sparring match. John pulls it off, like flips the sword around, and there's a way to hold the blade so it doesn't cut you. And a long steel blade on most longswords is flexible. It's very long, but it's very thin, like less than a centimeter mostly. So you can swing it like a whip.
Yeah.
It's even, yeah. Well, long story short, it dented the helmet, knocked this guy on his ass. He said he couldn't see straight for like 2 days. Jesus. And he was a military guy. Well, whatever. It's not important, but he was huge, One of the best fighters in the whole country at the big sparring competitions.
Everyone's brain is the same size. Doesn't matter how big your body is. You get your bell rung, you're going down.
They're talking about Morghese getting upset at everyone, but really she's just on edge and needs to scream at someone or something, and it just happens to end up being a someone. Yeah.
And after she's done, Lenny says, "The right medicine always tastes bitter, most of all for a child who throws a sulky tantrum." And then, of course, Morghese has to go apologize to everybody because Lenny calls her out. Lenny's her little Jiminy Cricket. Lemony Cricket?
At least for once she did not say it for the whole room to hear. She was right. Except about the tantrum, of course.
Of course.
That's how very Elaine.
They are related.
And then, oh God, and then she's like, okay, she says to Gil, will you tell Talonvor to please come back? I should apologize. I shouldn't have spoken to him that way. And Brienne says, the best way to apologize to a man is to trip him in a secluded part of the garden. And then she loses it.
She's not wrong.
Effing funny. Yeah, I believe the verb here is shrieked. Yes, shrieked. It's a strong one. That's a strong one.
It's an apology I'll take.
Kicks everyone out.
Send Talonvor in so I can apologize to him. It's like, Send him in immediately so I can say I'm sorry is one of the most arrogant goddamn things.
Morghese is left alone in her room, and a servant comes. Pater Connell. You remember this guy? Anybody? Pater?
Oh, yeah. I remember Pater.
Yeah.
Pater was a young man who approached Randall Thor in a barn.
Started talking some crazy stuff about consented in you too, and, we're all dark friends or something. Rand punches him in the face, breaks his nose.
Yep. And that's totally him sensing the dagger, Shadar Logoth dagger, back when Millie Skane shows up, Pater shows up, and here we get a reference to his broken nose. He might have been good looking, except that his nose had been broken and not properly tended, which we know Rand's
fist. Yep.
And as we say, dark friend alert. And so he is a dark friend. I absolutely think he's being sent by some higher up Dark Friend. And when he's caught and hung as a Dark Friend, I think it's simply because he's caught. Not because, well, we'll get into that. But Morghese thinks it's a masterful move against her. And I don't think Patron Niall has any idea it happened.
No, Niall just his men actually found a gathering of Dark Friends, like a real one.
Like, for once. It's like, holy crap. Like, the White Cloaks actually found... Well, okay.
A lot of Pater tells Morghese this story that he and his uncle, Jen, who's a trader from the north, had come down here, blah, 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 looking for certain whatevers, but we're loyal subjects, of course they are. All that, and we're going to try to get you out of here. I just want you to know, we've got your back.
Which I have to assume. What do you think? He's under some sort of orders? Why is this Dark Friend trying to help Morghese? This young kid. And later he says, we're staying with a man in Almador who has pigeons. A merchant. Any idea who that is? I'm assuming he's a higher up Dark Friend, but...
No. I could think of a couple of names that maybe, but I don't know. In any case, Morghese doesn't let him leave. Even though he begs her to go. My queen, I was just supposed to let you know about the help. My uncle will be angry if I stay. I am your queen, Pater, Morghese said firmly. And your Uncle Jen's, too. He will not mind if you answer my questions. Pater looked as though he might bolt, but she settled herself in a chair and began digging for the truth. Nothing ever comes of that.
No, just sort of where she gets some of her...
Yeah, he just turns up dead like tomorrow, right?
It takes a little while, but yeah, pretty soon.
Do you think Niall actually found a gathering of Dark Friends, or do you think he knew something?
No, absolutely. I think they walk in and he's like, oh yeah, we walked in. They're performing this dark ritual. They're sacrificing these folks. Yeah, totally. And it's not Patron Niall. It's whoever's escorting her. I don't remember which White Cloak it is, but he's just throwing it offhandedly. And Niall is totally surprised when she gives in. He's like, I don't know what the fuck triggered that, And if he'd walked her by her savior's death, he would have been like, haha, that was a masterful plan on my part. We see from his POV right after that, he doesn't know why she gives in. He doesn't realize that she's been cowed. And he's like, well, I guess my continuous pressure finally worked. Great. But it really is Pater's death is the trigger because her escape plan is gone.
Gotcha.
And that's when she gives in to Patron Niles and signs his paperwork.
Bambi, that's a good question. She's asking who sent Pater. I don't know that we know anything about that.
That is a question. We don't really know who's setting this whole thing up. I was wondering, who's the merchant they're staying with? Is there a Forsaken? Does somebody pulling the strings to make this happen? Yeah.
There's a lot that we could glean there. And I think that Pater has been sent twice to two very important people. I think Pater works for someone.
Well, the first time was totally him just being in the right place, right time, and sensing. I don't think he was sent to random Matt. He just was close enough that he sensed the evil of the Shadow Logith dagger.
Yeah.
And he was by himself. He had to run to the next town, and that's why no one tended to do his nose, because he yelled at Rand, "How dare you blaspheme against the Dark Lord? He'll be coming for you." And everyone was like, "Oh my god, Dark Friend." So he had to run, and he didn't have any friends. So he must have found these folks. But again, I don't know who these are. We don't get a lot of information about who this group of Dark Friends is. If someone could make the connection as to the merchant who's sending out the pigeons, I'd love to hear it.
Oh my god, if someone out there knows the answer to that, please send us an email. I don't think there is one, though. That's also a possibility. Our friend Gordon just said, what if the Dark Friends wanted him dead? And other folks are suggesting that he may be double agent-y, maybe he does actually care about Morghese and his queen.
That's a good point, that the Dark Friends may have tipped off the White Cloaks about the Dark Friend meeting. The Dark Friends are just that clever that they may have set that all up just to make Morghese give in to Patron Niall's demands. I don't think they're that clever, but, I don't know. Could be. I think the White Cloaks just got lucky. I think they just, stumbled, You kill a bunch of people for being Dark Friends. I think even Jaichim Carridin says it, some legitimate friends get caught up in it, they, especially when there's when there's a big purge. They try and avoid it, but, it's inevitable. Broken clock and everything.
And here, this is another one of those sections that it's short enough that I felt odd doing a read-in and read-out, because there's like a paragraph in between them.
Right.
But I hesitate to read the entire thing for, copyright purposes. So, probably the best way to do this is the first page or so is Niall, like, walking through, the Fortress of the Light. And there's all these white cloaks bowing, and we get our descriptions and everything. And does anybody want me to just read it or get into the descriptions and stuff? Or really the bulk of the chapter here is, this is a meeting between Niall and Jaichim Carridin. So really, like, the last 2 pages are the important part when they start talking. I figured I would read that.
I like in the beginning where he's just like, he's saying both the last battle's not going to be some grand fight between the Dragon Reborn and the Dark One. It's just going to be like the Trolloc Wars. And I was like, why not both?
It is both.
It is both. Like, we can have both. We're going to do both. They're going to be grand confrontation, and they're going to be Trollocs spoiling out of the Blight, and Dreadlords, and all that kind of stuff.
Everybody.
Yep. And as always, Jaichim Carridin, Boars, Dark Friend alert.
In a bad way. He's got a Murdral visiting him all the time.
Killing his family
murdering his family
by
members.
one. At this point, the only reason, I think he's got one Forsaken protecting him from, who's in charge of him and Millie Skane in Ebu Dar? Which Forsaken is helping them? Isn't it?
Desmond suggests Samael.
I think it's Samael, but I thought he was dead at that point.
I'm going to take a look here, because that, I think, is a question we can't answer.
Yeah, it should be pretty easy.
He also takes some orders from Leandrin and Tanchico. Eventually he comes to serve Samael in Ebu Dar.
Okay, it was Samael.
Sends him to Ebu Dar, rather.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a little after. It looks like he serves a whole long list of...
Yeah, he gets passed around a little bit. He's...
Weird.
Well, I mean, and of course, serving Shadar Hran means he's serving the Dark One directly. So, there's that.
Have you speculated on why I sent for you, Carridin? After Almouth Plain and Falma, after Tanchico, the man could not be blamed if he believed he was to be arrested. But if he suspected such a possibility, nothing showed in his voice. As usual, he could not help showing that he knew more than anyone else, definitely more than he was supposed to. The Aes Sedai in Altara, my Lord Captain Commander? A chance to wipe out half the Tarvalin witches right on our doorstep. An exaggeration. A third were in Salidar, perhaps, but no more. And have you speculated aloud, among your friends? Niall doubted that Carridin had any, but there were those he drank with, of late, got drunk with. The man had certain skills, though. Useful skills. No, my Lord Captain Commander, I know better than that. Good, Niall said, because you are not going anywhere near this Salidar, and neither is any of the other children. He could not be sure whether it was relief that flashed across Carridin's face. If so, it was out of character. The man had never showed any lack of courage, and relief certainly did not suit his reply. But they are waiting to be snapped up. This is proof the rumors are true. The tower is divided. We can destroy this lot without the others raising a hand. The tower could be weakened enough to fall. Think you so? Niall said dryly. He laced his fingers across his middle and kept his voice mild. Questioners, the hand despised that name, but even he used it. Questioners never saw anything not shoved under their noses. Even the tower can hardly come out openly for this false dragon Althor. What if he turns as Loghain did? But a rebel group? They could support him, and the White Tower's skirts are clean whatever happens. He was sure that was the way of it. If not, there would be ways to use any real split to further weaken the tower, but he believed he was right. In any case, what the world sees matters. I will not let them see merely a struggle between children and the tower. Not until the world saw the tower for what it was. A sink of dark friends meddling with forces mankind was not meant to touch. This force that had caused the breaking of the world. This struggle is the world against the false dragon Althor. Then, if I am not going to Altara, my Lord Captain Commander, what are my orders? Niall let his head fall back with a sigh. He felt tired suddenly. He felt all of his years and more. Oh, you will be going to Altara, Carridin. Rand al'Thor's name and face had been known to him since shortly after the supposed invasion from across the sea at Falma, an Aes Sedai plot that had cost the children 1,000 men, and begun the spread of the Dragonsworn and chaos across Tarabon and Aradoman. He had known what al'Thor was, and believed he could use him as a goad to force nations to unite. Once bound together, behind his leadership, they could have disposed of this al'Thor and been ready for the Trolloc hordes. He had sent emissaries to every ruler of every land to point out the danger, but al'Thor moved faster than he could believe, even now. He had meant to let a rabid lion roam the streets long enough to frighten everyone, but the lion had become a giant that moved like lightning. Yet all was not lost. He had to keep reminding himself. More than 1,000 years ago, Gwaihir Amalasan named himself the Dragon Reborn, a false dragon who could channel. Amalasan had conquered more land than al'Thor now held, before a young king named Artur Pendrag Tenrial took the field against him and began his own climb to empire. Niall did not consider himself another Artur Hawkwing, but he was what the world had. He would not give up while he lived. Already, he had begun to counter al'Thor's growing strength. Besides emissaries to rulers, he had sent men to Tarabon and Aradoman, a few men to find the right ears, to whisper that all their troubles could be laid at the feet of the Dragonsworn, those fools and dark friends who had declared for al'Thor, and at the feet of the White Tower. Plenty of rumors already came out of Tarabon, of Aes Sedai involved in the fighting, rumors to ready men's ears to hear the truth. Now was time to launch the next part of his new plan, to show the fence-sitters which side to choose. Time. He had so little time, yet he could not help smiling. There were those, now dead, who had once said, "When Niall smiles, he's going for the throat." Altara and Murindi, he told Carridin, are about to be tormented by a plague of Dragonsworn. You know, I gotta say, even though he's awful, I like Niall as a character.
And he's not actually that awful. Yeah, like he's fairly honorable.
He's doing what he thinks is best. I mean,
he's like,
this comes up all the time when we talk about this, when we talk on the podcast, but, you know.
Who better?
What he thinks is best, yeah.
To fight the last battle than the one man who is in charge of a large force with no single nation, no alliance. He's not, think about all the requirements for this person they had that they wanted to lead the last battle. Pedro Niall would fit the bill really well.
He does, actually, yeah.
Like, wouldn't have been prejudiced to protect anyone's land. Let's just ignore the fact that the White Cloaks are terrible, terrible people, but if they'd actually been a good, honorable police force, I can see where, like, he's making a good case that, like, he should be the one to lead the last battle and unite the countries against the Dark One.
Sure, and he's listed as one of the great captains, isn't he? Niall's one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of absolutely. He's one of the five.
He's a very clever character, and I guess although he's often working against our beloved characters, despite that, I enjoy reading his parts because he is he's just a good character.
And it explains why
interesting.
Balwar hates the White Cloaks so much, even though he worked for them. He loved Pedro Niall. He thought Pedro Niall was intelligent, smart, doing the right thing. Maybe not quite as much as Perrin. He understands that Pedro Niall was going for a power grab more than anything else. But Balwar hates the people who killed his master, which are the existing White Cloaks. That's why he's always, like, grinding his teeth and thinking about news and, really washing his hands. And Perrin can tell he hates the White Cloaks. It's because he hates the people who killed Pedro Niall, the man he respected.
Yeah, and Niall's often right. And when he's wrong, like, he denies that Rand is truly the Dragon Reborn. But, like, in his speech to Morghese, did I end up reading the part where he says something like, yeah, I probably did. Morghese is like, well, the stone fell, the dragon took it. And Niall says something like, yeah, and all the High Lords proclaimed him, right? Wait, how many did he hang before the High Lords proclaimed him?
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, it's a good argument.
Well, and it's a lie. They proclaimed him first, and then he hung them.
Yeah, true. And then he hung ones who deserved it also. But, it's distant information to him. He's close. He's so close to the truth. And he just doesn't want to believe that this channeler could possibly be the Dragon Reborn for whatever reason.
No. And he says, I didn't lie once. I didn't have to. And from his perspective, he didn't.
Yeah.
From a certain point of view.
I like that, Bambi. He's like a clear-eyed zealot. Yeah, he is a bit. And he's not crazed like so many other White Cloaks we run into.
There's a deep rot in the White Cloak, just like in most of the societies in Wheel of Time. Certainly in the White Tower, there's a deep rot. In the White Cloaks, in most of the kingdoms, there's corruption and game of houses.
Ooh, that too, Devico. Nobody really wants to accept that the end times are here. But yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, if someone told me that the world was ending and some religious prophecy was taking place, I'd be like, yeah, preachers on TV say that every day.
Uh-huh.
The world's ending. Sure. How many times has the world been supposed to end now?
No, I identify a lot with Niall in that
I would find,
skepticism.
any way that I could to be skeptical about it, because it just, come on. The world ending?
Yeah. The world's not going to end. The world never ends. People say the world's going to end all the time.
It's a rock.
Yeah. Yeah, there's going to be some battles. Yeah, there's going to be some monsters. But who should face them? My troop of army guys. That's what we're here for. I totally identify with him. Now, the issue is that, magic clearly has an effect. And Niall is not believing the evidence of his own eyes in some ways. But, that's
yeah.
And he sees that manipulation as evil. Why is using the power evil? That seems to me to be the jump that I don't. That's the prejudice in his mind that touching the one power is evil. Why? What about it is lifting a sword evil?
Because channelers broke the world is always the justification. But I mean, that's like saying the internal combustion engine ultimately led to the industrialization of warfare and therefore, mass deaths. And so cars are evil. That's the jump. Or so that the idea of the internal combustion engine is is evil.
That's less of a jump. Internal combustion has led to some... people die in car accidents every year, not to mention pollution, global warming, anyway.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So let's, insert any other tool that someone could use,
Gasoline is the one power.
Yes.
The tainted one power feels really good to use, but causes all sorts of problems long term. I think a lot of, it's not a great analogy, but leaded gasoline reminds me a lot of tainted one power. Over time, it drove a good chunk of the population who was using it insane.
To some degree.
Yeah. Leaded gasoline is terrible. If you ever wonder why boomers have so much trouble...
Got that.
They grew up with leaded gasoline. That's all you gotta know. Drinking tonight a little something.
Oh man, tonight I just have soda water and strawberry syrup.
It's tasty, hydrating.
Yeah, it's good. Julia's parents got us for Christmas a Soda Stream. Do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just like a plastic bottle. This is probably not a great way to describe this. Super simple machine that makes soda.
It's a CO2 injector.
Yeah.
It's basically a miniaturized version of the kegerator.
We had been
in the living room.
Yeah, exactly. Because we had been complaining a little that we were drinking a lot of soda water, but buying all the cans, and man,
that's expensive.
It's a little expensive. If we buy, like, I don't know, even 2 or 3 cases a week is only like $10 or something. But the amount of aluminum that I was throwing away made me feel guilt. So, and her parents were like, "Oh, we have this machine," and then a couple months later, we got one for Christmas.
Nice. Yeah, I mean they're super convenient. I actually think they're because especially if you're reusing those hard plastic soda bottles that hold the pressure.
Yeah, it came with one, and we just used that.
Because then you're not throwing anything out. You're not reusing anything. I mean, me and Travis still have like I don't know 10 bottles in the fridge that we just fill with tap water and keep cold.
Keep cold, yeah.
And we just drink out of that. That's really.
Oh, I do that in the summertime, but in the winter I don't.
The fizzy water would be nice. That I honestly.
They're not that expensive if you like your soda waters, and if I'm not like having any alcohol, then I want like something, some kind of novelty beverage. The soda's a good crutch.
I really got addicted to having fizzy water on tap with the kegerator when we had just 5 gallons of carbonated cold water on tap. That was super nice.
Oh yeah.
And then we could do the thing where you just add some. I don't think I really ever did, but you could add sweeteners to it and syrups to it.
Oh yeah. I just do it exactly like I do at the bar. I just pour syrup straight into soda over ice.
Mm-hmm. I've gotten to the point now where I'm so sick of cooking. I have eaten so much cereal over the last couple of days.
That's kind of a bummer.
It's bad.
Do you do most of the cooking?
It's a toss-up. We mostly cook for ourselves.
Gotcha.
It's sort of like, yeah, it's, there's a lot of, or sometimes we'll like share what we cook. I made like salsa chicken the other night that was tasty, but at the same time, kind of plain.
Fair enough.
And it's just stuff like that where it's like, and I want a complete meal. I keep making like single dishes and eating that dish, but like I don't have enough. If I were to make a full meal, I would have so much food.
Yeah, that's something that over the last year I've been kind of struggling to figure out how much to cook of what at different times. Because with just me and Julia, she eats less than I do, and I don't eat a ton or anything these days anyway. Trying to gauge like how much to make of something to stretch it for like, now we'll have a lunch for 3 days or something like that. But
right.
I often end up wasting, especially greens. I usually overestimate how much we're going to eat.
I'm in desperate need of fresh greens. I mean, there's nothing in the house that is fresh. I mean, everything here, one, just because we're buying things that will last a while, and two, we haven't really gone to the store in a week, 2 weeks. So, the few fresh things we did buy have long since gone bad.
Try farmers markets. I don't know any in your area. I know the Alberta Co-op is up there, but you probably have to wait in line to get into that place.
Well, and the whole thing is, like, I'm trying to avoid grocery stores and groupings of people buying groceries. So I'm trying to buy and not go to I could go to Safeway and get fresh greens, but I don't want to unless I have to.
That's the hardest part. I bet you still can't get that stuff on Amazon either. That's why I'm really lucky that there's that little market 3 or 4 blocks from my house. And it's open air, so I feel less weird about being packed in there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, I feel like life now is a series of trade-offs of, like, do I risk my health or do I eat healthy? Well, I mean, I can eat like shit for a couple of weeks and it's not really going to be a big deal, but is this going to keep on for 6 months? Then I really need to figure out some way to get some fiber back into my diet, or else I'm going to have some clogging issues.
Yeah, Devago, I hear that. I stock up on lots and lots of onions and garlic, because those last for a long time. We don't do a lot of potatoes, not for any particular reason, but...
Oh, roots, potatoes, carrots, onions, we've got in spades. But it's really the greens that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, like, it seems like even in the fridge, it wilts overnight.
Yeah, it'll last maybe as long as a week or so, if you're lucky. I was thinking about just planting some kale and spinach in the side yard. It's not very sunny, but I think they don't need a lot of sun.
Yeah, you should definitely do that.
We don't have much of a yard at all, but it's, maybe 5 feet wide and goes around like 2 sides of the house. So like 5 feet wide, but like maybe 20 feet long or something like that. But that's all we really have.
I've got nothing.
It's basically an alley, but it's grass in between 2 houses.
Yep, 3rd floor condo. So there's a strip of sidewalk, and then like there's a strip of dirt with some bushes in it that the dogs can pee in. But it's basically like the curb, the little strip that's between the curb and the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just that between us and our neighbors. And then there's fence. So it's pretty limited. I am 2 blocks from a dog park, so we just go there instead. It's just instead of going outside, we walk the 3 minutes, and then I let Timber off leash, and he gets to have fun.
Yeah. We go sit in a big community garden that's near our house, but there's also a baseball diamond there, and lay there and read books. There's some people in a big field, but everybody kind of like puts their blanket at a reasonable distance from everyone else. Seems to work.
That's kind of what the dog park is like, where it's everyone just sort of standing,
post up in like your one
apart.
spot.
Yeah. But one thing with dog parks is occasionally you have to intervene with the dogs, and sometimes people get close when that happens.
Yeah, there's no way around that.
But yeah, like I said, I've been playing a shit ton of Minecraft. That's been my go-to time killer.
The Puzzle of Monkey Island sounds really familiar. I feel like I may have played that a long time ago.
It's just technology. It keeps changing, which is a good thing. But if you're not constantly changing with it, it will leave you behind.
Sadly, I feel behind sometimes. Kids these days.
Talk? Isn't that the noises a clock makes? I remember talking about. I was like, God, you remember Reagan? And he's like, no. I was like, oh right, yeah. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
When was the end of the? When was Reagan's last term? Do you?
80.
80? Oh, that was before I was born. Wiki says
he was still around when I was young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wiki says his last year in office was 89.
So yeah, he was most of my childhood, Reagan.
I was alive, but I don't actually have memories during that time.
Like 1 to 7 was Reagan for me, so I remember Reagan, and then I was like, I know I saw him on TV a lot. I don't remember Carter, and then certainly I remember HW and all the ones after that. Carter was 88 to 92, right?
It's a good question.
I should know my presidents better than this. This is embarrassing, especially the ones when I was alive.
It's definitely before I was born, but I think
that's fair. Bush was 80. When the hell was Carter?
I want to say Carter was the one before Reagan.
Wow. Okay.
After, because I think after Reagan was Bush 1.
Yeah, and then I know after Bush 1 was...
no, sorry, I'm Clinton, then Bush 1.
No.
Is that how that went?
No, Bush 1, then Clinton, then Bush 2.
Well. Oh, dear.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or
support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?